A very good morning to you once again. Welcome to the Smooth Breakfast on Smooth 98.1, your love music, love live station. It's 31 minutes past 7 a.m. It's a brand new week, and we get to start all over another opportunity for you, yes, you to be world class and absolutely audacious. Ayokunmi right here, ready to walk you into the world of the papers. Take a look at the headlines, the stories that are trending, and of course, making us talk and making us wonder as well. This is freshly pressed. Welcome along to an interactive session. As always, it's going to be the stories, analysis, your thoughts and reactions will follow as well. And those thoughts and reactions, send them in to us on WhatsApp. That is one way to do this. You can send the messages on 0809 444 0981. 0809 444 That is the WhatsApp number. Also join us on YouTube where we're streaming live at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Smooth 981 FM Lagos. Those are the ways you can be part of the journey this morning. So come on and come all. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the stories we'll be talking about this morning and talking about analysis. Joining me as they always do on a Monday, Mr. C and AB Bozimo are with me. Good morning to you, gentlemen. It's a brand new week. Let's get to do this all over again.
Thank you, Ayo. Thank you. Good morning, Mr. C, and good morning to all of the wonderful listeners out there. Let's make this a money-making Monday.
Good morning, AB. Good morning, Naya. Good morning, Lagos.
Mr. C.
Yes, sir.
All right. I thought your internet was trying to do one or two things. Maybe the tariff hike hasn't kicked in yet, so I don't know if that's already affecting what's going on. But anyways, let's begin our journey this morning. We are going to be talking about electricity. It's in the news once again. What else is new? The fact that we've been told to brace up for another electricity hike. The federal government says plans are ongoing to increase electricity hikes in tariffs, I beg your pardon, in the next few months. It, however, said the planned increase needed to be balanced by subsidies for the less affluent electricity users. We're back here again, Mr. C. Another hike is imminent, and we've been told to brace up. We've been told to brace up for a number of things since the beginning of this administration. And when it comes to power, we know how difficult it has been in the last 1 year or thereabouts, and it looks like things are not about to get any easier.
Yes, things are going to get a little bit more interesting in the coming weeks and months ahead.
Mr. C.
Now, the news can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, so the news by the federal government that there are plans to increase the tariffs again shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone who keenly follows the power industry or who listens to shows like this. Now, we are all aware of the fact that the power industry isn't being properly funded at the moment, and it requires a huge amount of funding on a yearly basis. It is also crystal clear that the government cannot shoulder the burden alone. So the purpose of this analysis, I'm going to break it into two. There's the economic analysis and there's the social analysis. Now we have to balance the conversation. From an economic perspective, we all complain about the state of our power industry. Every other month, each month for at least the past 13 months, we've been inundated with news or episodes of the collapse of the national grid, either total or partial. We also have a situation where investors are not going in. The existing investors and the existing distribution companies are over-labored, and the initial capital they came in with years ago has been eroded significantly by the devaluation of the naira against the greenback. Now, what is required is additional funding, probably getting in new investors. But to get them in, you have to give them cost-effective tariffs. So that is the economic argument. If they don't see cost-effective tariffs, they're not going to get into that space because they're not NGOs. They're set up to make money. Now, let's flip it. There are a number of things the federal government should have addressed first that they haven't addressed. Number one, this issue of meters. We have about 7 million consumers who are not metered. What does that mean? whatever amounts they're paying will probably end up being a fraction of what they should actually have paid. Now, I'm not sure what the plan is for addressing that significant gap. The discos seem to be overlabored. The media manufacturing companies seem to be overlabored. There isn't any clear direction on where we're going with that situation. True, I've never understood this concept of having multiple tariffs for multiple classes. Yes, there are people who are not as economically buoyant as other groups. But what is the point in saying that a certain group of Nigerians are only entitled to have power supply for about 3 or 4 hours a day? Absolutely makes no sense. Now, these are some of the things that should be addressed. We haven't fully addressed the transmission system. We haven't fully addressed the fact that electricity supplied to the last mile consumer hasn't been properly looked at. Thankfully, a number of states, I think 12 or 13, have signed up with NEC to regulate their own electricity markets. Now, the flip side of this conversation is the social impact. From a social perspective, is this the right time to tack on an increased tariff? And this question is valid. We have a number of micro small businesses that rely on power supply to power their businesses and derive any sort of revenue. Now, when you continue to increase the tariffs with power supply, especially Band-Aid, who eventually bears the brunt of all these tariff increases is the average consumer. It's people like me and you, Ayo, that will bear this increase. Now, given the fact that the economy still hasn't fully recovered, can we absorb another tariff increase? Now, this is distinct from the telecoms increase. Power is required for every single aspect of life. We've had teaching hospitals complain that they cannot pay the bills that are being issued to them by the distribution companies. Now, where you have a teaching hospital or even any sort of hospital being unable to pay for power, what do you then think will be the attendant effect on patients who patronize or have to visit such hospitals for urgent medical care? Right. Take that to the schools. Imagine having a school, whether it's primary, whether it's secondary, whether it's tertiary, where there's no proper public supply, or they simply cannot afford to pay for power. What then will be the attendant effect on the quality of people who graduate from such institutions? Take it to your police stations. If there is no power or they cannot afford to pay for power, the attendant effect on security and the provision of security to deter people who will break law and order. And the list goes on and on and on. Now, what is the solution here? One possible solution is give them tax breaks for a number of years. And when they import their equipment, give them duty waivers. Now, I don't know if this is being explored. I don't know if there are intergovernmental discussions going on with the Nigerian Customs Service, with the Ministry of Finance Incorporated. I'm not sure what's going on. And they're not telling us anything that we should be listening to. So good luck with this planned tariff increase. And again, it will just be another weight already added or will be added to already crushed shoulders. But it is what it is.
Unfortunately, it is what it is. AB, you want to weigh in on the matter?
Very quickly, the entire power sector in Nigeria is completely messed up. That said, what are the various sub-national leaders, i.e. governors, doing about trying to promote power in their domains? I think one of the biggest problems of the Nigerian power sector is this anachronistic national grid. When you have such a thing, I think it's harder for you to organize it. And when it goes down catastrophically. So at each state level, laws have empowered governors to provide power. Do you know that if each governor, I did a little bit of research, very quick, it takes only about $1 million to get about 1 megawatt of energy. That's not much. But if each governor tried to put 1 megawatt, 500, I mean, $1 million is not that much compared to what governors are spending on other, in my view, wasteful things. If each of them tried to do that in 12 months, you'd have 36 megawatts odd. By the time you do a whole term, you know what that would be in terms of the additional capacity. So
Right.
the technical parts, I'm not a technical expert, but I'm saying conceptually, there is an approach that eats this elephant one forkful at a time. They refuse to even approach that, and that's at the heart of it. I do not believe they want to solve the problem.
It's rather unfortunate, as Mr. C said, talking about the hospitals. I know UCH Ibadan is currently disconnected.
In a
They
blackout.
don't have access to power um due to the bills that they actually can't afford to pay. It's really sad that we're still having this conversation at this time. Anyway,
So
AB, this is something.
very quickly, let me just add in something. So again, the government is not even thinking about renewable energy, either at the federal level or subnational levels, because we have vast expanses of land that can accommodate wind farms. We have vast expanses of even waters that can accommodate solar farms. Nobody is thinking about it's a lazy way out. Let's just increase tariffs.
Indeed. All right, let's leave the electricity sector. AB, I'm coming over to you with this one. I know you can relate to the struggles of power that we're having here. So let's talk about some electricity matters right
I
now.
relate, brother. I relate.
We're heading into the Guardian. The executive secretary of the Tertiary Education Trust Fund, that's TED Fund, Sonny Echono, has said that the intervention agency has disbursed around 2 trillion naira to tertiary institutions across the country between 2011 and 2024. Now, he stated that the intervention was deployed to enhance infrastructural projects such as Senate buildings, classrooms, lecture theaters, auditoria, ICT centers, laboratories, laboratory research equipment, libraries, workshop hostels, among many others across universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education in Nigeria. I'm going to just stop it there. Between 2011 and 2024 AB, about almost 2 trillion naira has been disbursed to tertiary institutions. Can we say, looking at where we are right now, that these funds have actually been put to any good use?
Now, the first question that I'm curious about is whether this is 2 trillion pre Tinubu or post Tinubu, just out of curiosity, because you know that the actual effect of it will be much less post Tinubu. But that said, putting this money into these projects is notable. In fact, if you enter many university campuses, you tend to see this building funded by TED Fund, that building funded by TED Fund. So some money has definitely gone into the physical infrastructure. But like we said in the earlier story, having a research laboratory without power, having an ICT center without power, and all that, you wonder how much cross-disciplinary activity is going on with the TED Fund. And it's not just the buildings that should be added. They've also provided for lecturers to attend symposia. They've supported research activity. And that research activity touched me because this Al Gore's internet, or this Obasanjo's internet, or even this Abacha's internet we're all using, was the result of a research project that the government of the US said they wanted to be able to exchange documents with hyperlinks, and that is what developed the internet. So, what are the broad goals of our research establishments, our universities, our colleges of education in Nigeria? It's great, it's important, it's significant, it's essential what TED Fund is doing. But is it part of a larger picture, or is it solely or primarily about awarding individual contracts? Is it about, and contracts are a good thing. Don't take that the wrong way. Contracts keep businesses going, but I'd like to feel or see a way that TED Fund is contributing to this bigger picture where we're saying to ourselves, a few days ago, there was a conversation about tropical diseases and many of them, how they cost us as a part of the world, and how we have hospitals where People go. We don't have. Remember, a few days ago, the president of the U.S. temporarily canceled aid, and all sorts of people were up in arms for good reason as well as bad. But how many years of independence have we created our own solutions for our own tropical? Do you expect a person who doesn't have malaria endemic, or in fact, Bill Gates still helped us, I think, recently with the malaria vaccine. But why should he? Why can we not, as a country, say, okay, we are going to solve some of our own problems? Electricity is on one level, but malaria, it's our problem. And I should add that malaria is really an engineering problem. We know from elementary science that the malaria spores thrive in stagnant water. Therefore, if you do proper drainage system, which is an engineering thing, you should not have stagnant water, and so you should reduce malaria. But that's a completely separate conversation. The point is, TED Fund has spent money. Good. Projects have been put in place. Good. Lecturers have been supported. Researchers have been supported. To what larger national purpose is this money being contributed? After these years, 13 years, are we taking steps forward in our educational system? I know individual lecturers have benefited. I'm very happy. I'm a child of university lecturers. I know, there are schools and campuses that have been enhanced. Great. But beyond these disbursements and interventions, I would love to hear what our national, even our regional goals are, even in those our famous six fingers of a leprous hand, six political zones. What are we solving? We've had terrorism. What are we doing in the pastoral areas? We are getting flooding now. We have these national problems. How about we make sure that TED Fund is part of the solution to these problems, and we're not just maybe announcing projects. This project should be pushing a program of Nigerian solutions.
All right. Thank you for sharing those thoughts. There, AB. Let me take a message or two here. Rexy from Surrey says, I agree with Mr. C. To get the type of uninterrupted power Nigerians crave, it costs money to provide it, and we have to be prepared to pay for it. From his social perspective, I guess the question to add to it is, are we socially or economically prepared to continue in darkness, pay next to nothing for power? It's a zero-sum game. Something has to give. Babatunde Alao says, on electricity, the only achievement by the government and power companies has been increase in tariff and increase and increase and increase. The grids have collapsed consistently, much more than popular road crashes. We'll soon go back to the era where lanterns and Atukwa reigned supreme. I don't think we're going to go that far back, Babatunde. Let's calm down. Okay, Mr. C, let's get back into the Guardian right now. And let's talk about INEC. Now, the Nigeria Civil Society Situation Room has expressed concern over the recent demand by the Independent National Electoral Commission, that's INEC, for an increase in budgetary allocation from 40 billion to 126 billion naira to conduct the off-cycle governorship election in Anambra State. To carry out a continuous voter registration, CV exercise, replace damaged materials, among other activities. Goes on and on there. But I mean, they want to jump from 40 to 126. You know what, Mr. C, let me let you take it from here because we don't have any elections till 2027. So from 40 to 126.
No, we do. No, we do. So there's an off-cycle election in November this year. It's in Anambra State for the gubernatorial office, because the last election was conducted on the 6th of November, 2021. So this is the last year.
I mean in terms of general elections
elections
over the country is what I mean.
Yeah, you're correct. Now, personally, I think INEC is an unserious institution, right? How do you jump from 40 billion to 126 billion? There have been very serious reservations about the nonsense they did in 2023 at national and subnational levels. They have not deemed it fit to provide any sort of explanation to justify the nonsense they did. Now they're asking for more money. And let's break down the request. They want to conduct an off-cycle election. Since 1999, with each successive election, the voter turnout has continued to drop. Meanwhile, if you check INEC's electoral register, they say they have 93 million voters. But with each election, max you get 25, 20. We've never hit 30 million voters since 1999 that turn out to vote. What does that tell you? There is a problem with the existing register. And INEC's proposal is to continue with the registration rather than either clean up the existing register or start a new register. True, they say they want to replace damaged materials. What damaged the materials? Are these forces of nature? Were they exposed to the elements of nature? Was they destroyed or damaged by human beings? And if they were destroyed or damaged by human beings, was anyone arraigned before a court for malicious damage to public property? They want to conduct the elections. Now, you're conducting elections in one state. Anambra State is not one of the states that is particularly large in terms of geographical landmass. So what exactly is that money for? And then when you check their track record, there's really no hope that they're going to even get it right. The last off-cycle election they conducted in Edo State were being buffeted with tales of shenanigans that are simply taken out of a crime mystery novel. Now, where am I going with all of this? They certainly don't need 126 billion. I'm sorry, they don't. What they should tell us is what is the cost of conducting the off-cycle election in Anambra State? Two, give us a roadmap for dealing with the electoral register. You cannot continue to add names to a deficient and questionable register. Now, more importantly, this business of continuing to register voters should stop, in my opinion. Once you have a valid national identification document, whether it is a Nigerian passport, whether it's a Nigerian driver's license, whether it's even possession of the national identification number, that should be sufficient to vote. This business of trying to issue PVCs, even though they claim they want to phase that out, should stop. And then two, INEC should be telling us their plans to go electronic so that people can vote from the comforts of their homes, their offices, or wherever they're located. Now, if they were to go the electronic route, this nonsense of snatching ballot boxes, engaging in electoral violence on election days will be greatly reduced, if not totally stopped. These are the sort of things I want to hear INEC addressing us on, not continuing the old practice of inflating a questionable register and demanding money they cannot justify.
It's said that doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result is tantamount to absolute insanity. I don't know whether that is a road that INEC has decided or is deciding to go down on, but you can't keep doing the same things the same way with the results you were getting and expect to do them again and expect a different result. It's not going to work out that way at all, at all, at all. All right, AB, let me come back to you. We're kicking things along right here. And let's talk about our doctors. We're jumping into the premium times. Now, the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, that's NARD, has called on the federal government to pay the outstanding medical residency training funds, MRTF, for 2023 and 2024, as well as settle unpaid salary arrears. Now, NARD President Oshundara Tokwe Zenith made the appeal at a news conference on Saturday in Abuja, marking the end of the association's 2025 National Executive Council meeting and scientific conference. It just feels like we're broken records at this point, AB, where we talk about our doctors, talk about our teachers, they're being owed one salary, this area, and so on and so forth. It feels like this is the norm rather than the exception at this point in time.
Now, I am willing to bet this is something that has been outstanding apparently from this story since 2009. There are some agreements that have not been addressed since 2009. or not completely addressed. Secondly, you have a situation where we have top government people saying doctors can go and come. Then another person will counter it and say doctors should not go. They should stay here and salvage it together, quote unquote, like Andrew said many, many decades ago. Here's the issue. What do we really want? Do you want to have a functional, vibrant medical support system for your citizens? Do you want your citizens to be healthy? Because if they're not healthy, they can't be efficient. Or do you want to do the haphazard thing? I always talk about how where we spend money shows our priorities. We bought a jet for a president. We built a house for a non-homeless vice president. We dash bulletproof jeeps to all sorts of characters in all sorts of organizations at the government level. I am willing to bet that the total sum of this money that is being requested by the doctors is not 1 single billion naira. I'm willing, and please, somebody who knows should please correct me and prove me wrong. I'm sure not up to 1 billion naira, even Tinubu's billions. So it just tells you that things that could actually be solved relatively inexpensively, because we don't prioritize them, they keep lingering and they create a situation of dissatisfaction. And it's not easy. Look, health is life and death. I always say that there are two kinds of emergencies in the world. There's medical emergency and every other kind. Ask Mr. C, if he gets a call from me, I say, Mr. C, the police has held me, I'm in jail. He say, are you okay? You ask me, are you okay? He say, yes. Okay, I'll come later, I'll come tomorrow. But if you hear that there's a medical emergency, you have to drop everything and run. So when we toy with our healthcare providers like this, it just shows that perhaps those in authority, because they have options, Europe or well, America may be more dicey, but wherever they like to go to, they don't care for the people on ground. So I think it's a fair request. I think it could easily be tackled. Was it not a country that gave 500 million to people to sit down and discuss how to raise the minimum wage? Labour won't go on strike for this one. No. Labour wants to fight. Labour wants to fight the telecom provider. This is the kind of thing that Labour, if Labour said they were taking this on, I would say we have a point here. But Labour, in their perpetual pointlessness, always pick the wrong fights. But back to this story, I hope that this request will be taken as seriously as it deserves. And in credit in this story, they gave kudos to Mr. Wike, who apparently in Abuja has at least addressed some of the issues. So I just feel that we have not taken our medical sector seriously, and it's all part of this overall, depreciation and lack of prioritization. But kudos to, they have raised it, they gave kudos where necessary, and they have asked for more to be done. Now, will those with the authority prioritize this sector or not? That remains to be seen.
Indeed, that is the $1 million question. Okay, let me run through some of the messages as before we call it a morning on the show. This is from Joseph Menye. Let me see here. He says, please, what are the gains of subsidy removal and the floating of the Naira? Why are consumers still date, not metered, but enjoy estimated billing now, a hike in power tariff, while the telcos are also warming up for their own hike? What is the actual reprieve for citizens? Long message, but I think I will cut it short at that point. Thank you for sharing your thoughts there. Jerry says, can you still trust this INEC chairman? Why have Nigerians not taken time to ask him what he did with the funds released to him for a real-time transmission of results, as was promised in 2023? In Senate climbs, should he be on that seat still, or should he be cooling off, cooling off behind bars? Jerry, I don't know about I don't know about that too. There was no case that was brought forward, so talking about him being behind bars or not, I don't know about that one. Sean Odiasi says, the average medical student is focused on leaving the country after NYSC. Some of the current doctors in the country are deviating to other businesses. Who wants to who will remain? Poor facilities, poor personnel, management, wahala, and so on and so forth. That is reality that we are living in right now. Abayo Mianimashal says, Nigeria's meter manufacturers have the potential to meet demand. but challenges like funding, import dependence, and regulatory issues slow them down. Now, while government funding can accelerate production, the focus should be on policy support, local component manufacturing, and a structured PPP model to make the sector self-sustaining. Okay. Wally says, Wally from Abuja says, the issue of affordability is not the same thing as cost-reflective tariff. The power generation companies are run by private entities who just want to break even. It's funny that if you try to power your own house with even petrol, you'd spend more than the great tariff. Affordability cannot be the determinant for tariff. The generation companies are also manufacturers with a base cost that has to be covered. All right. Fabian from Ekwe says, the government needs to show its seriousness in appreciating the various sectors, health, education, and so on, that continue to go downhill. It appears that there is no prioritizing of what is important to the populace. INEC will get their request, while ASU and ARD and NARD may have to go on strike to get even a fraction of what they are asking. Unfortunately, more medical staff will continue to leave. It's the sad reality that we are living in. Tony from Marine Beach says, each time we talk about constant power in this country, there's this emphasis on, can we pay for it? And power is expensive. Have we heard what the cost is killing? Have we heard that the cost is killing citizens of other countries enjoying constant power? Are the citizens of those countries in Africa richer than Nigerians? Can we please stop that narrative and begin to get our leaders and those in the sector to bring some sanity in the system and stop giving them excuses? All right. And finally, Barrister Dan Okuda says INEC ineptitude is one of the biggest problems plaguing our democratic journey. INEC needs a total overhaul. Okay, something I can sneak one in. Femi from Ogba says, it took us many months to register 93 million voters. The election takes place in a day. There is no way half of 93 million can cast their votes, even if it takes 5 minutes for one person to complete the voting process. And as we've said, even the voting process has a lot of issues there. All right, we need to call it a morning. Thank you for all the messages, and thank you so much, AB and Mr. C, for joining me this morning. It's a brand new Monday, great way to start the week.
Thank you, Sir Ayo. Thank you, Mr. C, and thank you, everyone who's listening. Have a wonderful week ahead.
Thank you, AB. Thank you, Ayo. I wish everyone a rewarding and profitable week ahead.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. C. And of course, keep it tuned to your lovely music love life station, Smooth 98.1. We'll get into the locker room at 8:15. A lot of banter is going to flow around as Tega will be in to take us through the world of sports. Let's go.